All right, so good afternoon, folks, and thank you for joining us. Like I told those who came a little bit earlier, now is the time to message those of your friends that were supposed to join us today and they haven't logged on as yet. Tell them we start and we're starting on time. Um, I took it from a friend in terms of to be on time. To be before time is to be on time, right? So for those who will be before time, thank you for joining us. And those who are just in time, thank you for joining us. So Global Entrepreneurship Week, and my name is Shadron Collins. I'm the General Manager for Youth Business Trinidad and Tobago. And Global Entrepreneurship Week is a massive campaign celebrating empowering entrepreneurs in every country and community around the world. We're probably being celebrated in 200 countries throughout the course of November. So in November, 10 million people, tens and thousands of events all over the world happen during November to celebrate what we call Global Entrepreneurship Week. The campaign, the global campaign has been running for the past 15 years, celebrating entrepreneurs, whether it be through events, networking, speaking opportunities, workshops, webinars, pitch competition. So different events and things happen across November. And YBTT has been the local host for Global Entrepreneurship Week campaign here for the last 14 years. So we were kind of in inception, focusing the campaign within entrepreneurship within Trinidad and Tobago. Now, Global Entrepreneurship Week is for everyone, no matter who you are, where you live, what stage of entrepreneurship you're in, what's your age. So although we're the local campaign host at Youth Business Trinidad and Tobago, it is for everyone. And that's why for this year's theme, our GWTT campaign theme is embracing the next generation of entrepreneurs. And while our brain automatically thinks young entrepreneurs when we think next generation, we really want us to kind of focus on who are the next generation of entrepreneurs, the next set of persons to take up the mantle of being entrepreneurs. Those who are already entrepreneurs, the next generation of their business, whether it be exporting internationally, regionally, whether it's a new product or services that you're developing it from there. So those who are left out of the current ecosystem, how do we embrace them as being part of this entrepreneurial ecosystem? Now, so for more on GW, you can check out ybtt.org/GEW. It's here somewhere on my head. Right, I think it's on this side here. But for today's event, I want to welcome you again to today's GW event. 10 things every aspiring entrepreneur needs to know, right? And it's my honor to introduce our facilitator and speaker for today, the chairman of Regency Recruitment and Resources Limited, as well as a YBTT director, Ms. Lara Quenchel Thomas. And after the session, and while you're taking notes and little tidbits and taking on the jewels that Lara will be saying throughout the presentation, we'll have questions after her presentation. So we'll be using the raise hand tool, and then Jonathan will help you unmuting your mic. So feel free to, if you want to tag us on social media after, use the hashtag GWTT so that we can tell us a little bit about your experience, your takeaways from today as well. So folks, I'll introduce you again to Lara and enjoy.
Thank you, Shedron, and good afternoon, everybody, and well done to YBTT for what looks like a fabulous GW 2022 so far. As Shedron said, we encourage you to check out the Facebook page and the website to participate in as many different activities as you can, because there's so much information available to entrepreneurs at all stages of their lives, but certainly the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Trinidad and Tobago is alive and well, and we encourage you to get involved and to participate. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about 10 things that every aspiring entrepreneur needs to know. And as Shedron said, the theme this year is embracing a new generation of entrepreneurs. And whilst we think that may mean mostly young people, of course, it doesn't exclude people who are retiring and starting their businesses at the later end of their lives, people who are stopping their careers in the middle of their career and starting a business. And so I thought it would be helpful to try and give you some key takeaways as regardless of what stage you're at, but this is really for those of you that are at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey or thinking about maybe I'd like to have my own business one day, or I'd like to start working for myself. And so I hope what I'm going to share is useful. If you would like, I will email the presentation afterwards to Jonathan and Shedron so they can share it with any participants who are interested. And as Shedron said, at the end of the session, very happy to take questions, or you can type them in the chat and then I will get to them when I have finished going through the presentation. So why are we here? Why am I here with you today? So as Shedron mentioned, I am the chairman of Regency Recruitment, but I'm also a director at YBTT and have been for many years. And I do think it's very important that those entrepreneurs like myself who have actually walked this path, who have made the journey, and this is my 26th year now as an entrepreneur and a business owner, I think it's important that we share with future owners and future business leaders and entrepreneurs some of our insights and experiences, because a lot of what I'm going to share with you, you don't find in books. This is not things you can necessarily learn by going to college or doing a master's in entrepreneurship. These are based on my real experiences as well as those of some of my colleagues and my co-workers. And I feel it's important that we give back to enable you to avoid some of the pitfalls and the mistakes that we may have made in our journey, because when you, and for your businesses not to just survive, but to thrive, right? Because when small businesses do well, when entrepreneurs succeed, it benefits everybody. It benefits the whole country, the whole economy. So it's in my interest as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago to invest my time and energy in you as you invest your time and energy into your businesses, so that I can help you be a success in a small way that I'm doing, spending a bit of time with you this afternoon, but also, of course, through the YBTT mechanism and the various training and mentorship and other programs that they have available, and then the broader Youth Business Global program and the GEW program of activities. And it's important. All of these things are important because when you succeed, the country succeeds. And so I really am approaching this from an altruistic point of view, but I want to see Trinidad and Tobago do well. I want to see it prosper. And really the engine of growth and prosperity for all countries around the world, it's been shown many times, are small and medium-sized enterprises. They're the small businesses. Those are the ones that really drive economies. So I'm here to share some experiences and thoughts with you. I hope it's useful, and certainly would be very happy at the end to have a discussion with you about these 10 things every aspiring entrepreneur needs to know. So let's get started. Number 1, you don't know everything. Now, this is something that I learned the hard way. And I do think that many of us, when we start our businesses, especially perhaps if we're a bit younger, have a certain arrogance that we are experts about what we're selling. Whether you're a web designer or a carpenter or a hairdresser, or you make chocolates, whatever it is you're doing, you've got a great product, a great service, a great idea. You're the talent, right? You are the core of this business. You're the person that has that fundamental skill that the business is going to be built on. But it's important to know and to remember that you don't know everything. And I'll explain what I mean. So my own experience, I'm an HR professional. I run a recruitment agency. And so I started Regency thinking, of course, I know everything about recruitment. But what I didn't know a lot about was running a business. So I can bring the talent and the skill around my core vocation, which is recruitment and HR. But for example, I don't do accounting. I didn't know anything at all about national insurance, about BIR, about VAT. And I learned the hard way by not complying with these various statutory requirements, because out of ignorance, which, as you know, is no defense in law, that I needed pretty quickly to get somebody on my team who could help me with those things. So it's very important to be honest about, okay, this is what I do really well. I'm a fantastic graphic designer. I'm an amazing hairdresser. Beautiful. What I don't do very well is designing my website or my social media or doing the accounts for my business. And let me tell you, it's worth investing early, because mistakes in some of these areas, particularly finance, tax, legal compliance, can be very expensive. You know, if you miss a VAT payment, the penalties are often more than the VAT itself. So sometimes it's just a simple thing, getting somebody on board to put little systems in place for you to help you manage your income and expenditure, to maybe sign you up, do a little bit of training on QuickBooks or a platform that's going to enable you to run your business efficiently, give you reminders about when NIS is to be paid, how it's to be calculated. Or as we did at Regency, we outsource some of those things. So some of the things that are non-core skills, you outsource to experts. And ask for help, ask for advice from people who are in that field, maybe other entrepreneurs who are in that business that you're going into. What were some of the key skills that you needed in your business that you didn't have, but were essential? Because remember, you might be the creative core and heart and soul of this company, but it is a business. And every company in this country, around the world, has legal, statutory, and other compliance requirements. And if you don't meet those, they can very, very quickly undermine what you're trying to build. So maybe this is a skill that you'd like to learn. I went to many workshops on taxes. It's not my area as something that I love, but I needed to have at least a sense of what was going on with my company and where the money was going and what it was how it was being calculated. But really, for me, I wanted to be able to outsource what I couldn't do or didn't want to do, so that I could focus on growing the business, doing what I loved, which was the recruitment side of recruitment at the heart of Regency. So make a list of, or go and do some research about, what are some of the things that a company needs to survive, to succeed, to thrive, to do well. And I can do, if there's 10 things that we need, I can do 5 of them really well. Not worried about that. But the other 5, I'm going to need help with. And go and ask for that help. Seek it out. So just a simple example, again, we're a recruitment agency, but of course we have a website, we have social media pages. So that is not our core skill, developing our website. We don't have that ability, so we outsourced it. So there's a number of things that might be obvious, but there are also other things that you learn the hard way. So if you take away nothing else from today, the one thing I would encourage you to remember is, without fail, talk to an accountant. Talk to somebody who understands things like compliance with the taxes of this country, because those things can be very, very expensive if you don't put things in place, systems in place early. The second thing, and I quite like this because this is something that I did inadvertently, is you hire what they call a dream killer. So every entrepreneur, certainly at the beginning of your business, or when it's just an idea, it's a little twinkle in your eye, you have this vision of what you want to build. And in fact, having a vision and being a visionary is part of what makes a great entrepreneur. And as you go through your entrepreneurial journey, your vision may change. And you may have lots of great ideas about things that the company could be and should be, and where we should go and the direction we should take. You need to have in your corner a dream killer. So a dream killer is somebody who basically says, stop, hang on, let's cost that out. Let's think about, do we really need to buy new office furniture this week? Is that really a good priority for our money? Do we really need to expand into the Taiwan market? Is that really where our best customer options are? So you come to the table with ideas and you're brimming with excitement because something new and wonderful is going to happen. And the dream killer on your team is that person who will just say, not say no necessarily, but stop and think. For me, this person has been, as I say, I inadvertently hired one. I didn't even know I needed one. This person didn't join the team as a dream killer, and that's of course not her official job title, but she is somebody who has grown with the firm and been with me for many years, and unofficially is the person who keeps me in check. I come to the table with big ideas and vision, and I want us to do this, and I want us to do that, and take all the staff on a cruise, and we're going to do this, and we're going to buy all new Christmas decorations, whatever it might be. And she'll say, hang on a second, we have to pay VAT. Okay, right, yes, let's pay the government first before we buy new Christmas presents for everybody. So it can be simple things, it can be big things, but it's important to have a realist in your corner, because very often as an entrepreneur, that's not something you do terribly well. So they really just keep you on track. You can certainly go off and do new things. You can certainly expand into new markets or add new products or whatever it is you want to do, but in a financially responsible way, so that they help you keep your, not just your money safe. Typically it's a financial sort of guidance that you get, but also your brand, because very often, of course, if you don't plan it properly and you don't think it through, and you go and do something new and it fails, that can have serious repercussions on your brand as well, and your reputation. So think about somebody in your life who may be a good person for this role, that, you know, not negative. It's not about having somebody negative. And I know the name Dream Killer kind of implies that, but it's more about having a realist in your corner. So you're the dreamer, you're the visionary, you've got the great ideas and the great plans, and somebody just to bring you back to earth every now and again to say, before you go and, you know, buy your Rolls Royce, let's pay national insurance for our employees, shall we? Right? That's my dream killer. The third thing you need to understand is the customer is king. Now, I know this sounds like, well, we know that. Yes, we know that. But of course, we all live in Trinidad and Tobago. And we understand in Trinidad and Tobago that the customer is very rarely put first. The customer is very rarely treated as royalty. In fact, every day of life we see on social media, bad, horrible, terrible, troubling customer service experiences that we as citizens endure, whether it's renewing our driver's license, whether it's trying to wait for a bus to get to work, whether it's, you know, our internet supplier or WASA, or whoever it is, right? We've all been on the receiving end of bad customer service. And yet, everywhere you go, customer is king. We put the customer first. This is not the reality for most of us as customers. So you have to genuinely understand that if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. I mean, that goes without saying, whether you are B2B or B2C, whatever your mode of trade is, whatever you're doing, you have to have customers to have a business. Now, the saying that the customer is always right is wrong. The customer can be wrong. The customer is quite often wrong. But their needs and their experience with you and how they feel about that is right for them and to them. So you have to acknowledge that even though the customer was wrong, they said something and that's not what happened at all, their perception of the experience is their reality of the experience. And, you know, in service businesses in particular, we talk a lot now about the customer experience. So from top to toe, from entry to exit, from cradle to grave, that whole lifetime that customer is with you, what is their experience like with you? So if you're an online service delivery, from the minute I go to your website, well, first of all, can I find your website? How easy is it to find your website? How easy is it to navigate the website? To have a lovely experience? And then I ordered something and it was delivered the next day in a beautiful packaging. Or could I not find your website? And then when I sent a message to your Facebook page, nobody replied for 3 days. And then when I finally managed to place an order, it didn't arrive for 2 weeks, even though you knew it was a birthday cake for my son and his birthday was last weekend. Those are the stories that people share with us. You know, we see those stories. If you're a brick and mortar business, so you have a shop or a bakery or a salon, and somebody walks into your premises, the minute they enter, what's their experience? Do I feel well? And I'll share with you an experience that I had just last week. I went to Gulf City. I haven't been there for a very long time. And I went into 2 stores. The first store, both of them were clothing stores. The first store I walked into, there were 2 attendants sat there chewing gum. Neither one of them said a word. I walked in, you know, the bell goes off, bing bong, as you enter the store. I walk in, I'm walking around, I'm looking at the clothing. And one of these girls just followed me silently around the store. Didn't say a word, chewing gum behind me. I walked in and I walked out. I went a couple of stores down into another store, very same sort of clothing. And as I walked in, a young lady from behind the cash register came out and she said, "Welcome. Good afternoon. How are you? Can I help you get anything in particular? Is there anything you'd like to see?" "No, I'm fine. I'm just going to have a look." "Okay." "Over here is our sale rack. We have some lovely new jewelry on sale." She was fabulous. Which store do you think I spent my money in? Well, clearly the second one. Exactly the same products. Exactly. The difference was the customer experience. So even if you've got a small business, maybe it's just you, just you and your husband, or you and your mom and dad, and you've just got this small business. If you don't get customer service right from the beginning, you will really struggle to build your brand. And remember that your staff are also your customers. Richard Branson talks a lot about how you treat your staff is how they will treat your customers. So you build a culture as you start to build your firm of bringing on people and training and empowering and equipping your staff so that they're happy, they love their jobs, they're motivated by the vision. And then that then transcends into a fabulous customer experience. So from the very beginning of your business journey as an entrepreneur, always put yourself in the shoes of the customer and really make the customer the heart of everything you do, including your staff as a customer. It's so important to, there are so many businesses that fail. I think the numbers are something like 60% of startups fail. And I want to bet if you go back and look at why, a significant number of those is because they did not deliver customer service excellence. And of course, good customers will tell people, but bad customers, or people who have a bad experience as a customer, tell everybody. So you have to be very conscious about building out your processes, your system, your experience, so that customers love shopping with you and they want to come back. Just a simple thing. Make a note of their birthday. You're a hair salon. Make a note of their birthday, and a week before their birthday, you send them a WhatsApp. "Hey, Laura, it's your birthday next week. Come on in for a 10% discount on a haircut," or, mani-pedi. Little things like that. People go back. People want that sort of thing. So think about the customer experience. The next one, number 4, is networking. And I'm a huge fan, proponent of networking. And this is absolutely essential for really any business person who wants to build their brand as an individual, but certainly those of you on the call that want to build a business and to build that business brand, which essentially at the beginning is who you are, right? So I may have a company called Regency Recruitment, but most people know it's Lara. Most people know the company through me because I was the one who started the firm. So networking, there's a saying that I love: if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And what that means is that if you're not involved in your industry, in what's happening in the economy, then decisions are made about you without you, right? You have to be part of the decision making, particularly within the sector that you're in or within the industry that you're in. You also want to be recognized by your peers and by industry as a thought leader. Maybe you're doing something really innovative in the music space or in the web design space or the manufacturing space, but we won't know about it if you can't just put an ad on Facebook, right? You need to talk to people. You need to network with other professionals. And this is so important. I think it's important for all of us to start to think of ourselves as thought leaders, so that I become the expert when people have, and it happens to me, it's taken me a while, takes time, but over time, People now will call me for advice or to write an article or come on the radio or the TV to talk about issues related to HR or IR or recruitment, because this is the brand that I've built. And this includes your work with volunteer organizations and NGOs. There are so many things you can learn with an NGO, the sort of skills that you develop, but more importantly, the networks that you build that then can support your business growth. And of course, online networking now is massive, right? During COVID, we were doing everything online, all of our networks on LinkedIn. You've got to have an absolutely, top-notch LinkedIn profile for you and your business, regular updates, sharing really inspiring information, product launches, tidbits about how to run a website, whatever it is you're doing. Just be in the room where the sausage is made. For those of you that have seen Hamilton, it's important to be at the table. It's important to be a thought leader. Build your brand so that people go, oh, yes, you have a question about honey, I know who to call. You have a question about popcorn, I know who to call, right? Because this is the brand that you've built for yourself. And I talk about honey and popcorn because we have in YBTT, we have a couple of amazing entrepreneurs who are working with honey and popcorn separately, but maybe an opportunity to come together. So I always tell people there are 3 networks you should join. One is an NGO, and there are 3,000 something NGOs in this country. So whether you like working with animals, the environment, the elderly, people with disabilities, whatever, floats your boat, you'll find an NGO that you can volunteer with. The second is a business association, a chamber of commerce, something that is sort of general business, involved in the business community. And many of them have opportunities for smaller businesses to join. They have tiered membership, but you get on committees, you start to learn and talk to people who've walked the path that you're now on. And then thirdly, and I'll talk a bit about this in a moment, is your own vocation. So those 3 are the ones I recommend you join early to start building your brand as the person that's the head of this business, innovative, creative, great customer experience, whatever it is you're selling. We need to know. And you cannot just put an ad in the papers. It doesn't work that way anymore. You have to have multiple lines of approach to get the word out about who you are and what you're selling. Then the 5th one is to commit to lifelong learning. Now, in Trinidad and Tobago, there are so many opportunities to learn pretty much anything you could think of, whether it's with the NTA, whether it's with YTEP, MIC, UTT, UE. I mean, there are courses and colleges like peas in this country. And of course, if you don't find what you want to learn here, there's online. Coursera, many of us during the pandemic did, an array of programs online. I did a course in behavioral economics that Inglefield in London ran. It was absolutely fascinating, all pre-recorded. So you just log on whenever it's convenient and you get a little certificate at the end of it, free program. So there's a ton of material available. So because there's so much information, which you have available, when I was, young and starting out, it was really just the library and talking to older people. But you have no excuse now for not keeping up with what are the trends in my industry. What's the latest thing happening in hairdressing, nail technicians, in solar energy, in agriculture, in financial services, whatever you're in. You have to keep up with trends. This is how you remain relevant in your industry. Also, you learn new ways to run your business, innovative new HR techniques, because remember, the minute you've got staff, you're now also an HR manager. So that's another conversation for another day, but you need to understand how to manage and motivate your staff. And it's also important because the world is your customer, to look and see where there may be opportunities, where markets are opening up, where there's investment, to follow, what's happening at COP, to follow what's happening at Davos, all of these different events that go on around the world. Are you tuned into them? Are any of them relevant for your business? Are there opportunities there? I recently attended an event at the Hyatt, and one of our panelists was a local manufacturer, and they make apparel, so t-shirts and scrubs and HSE overalls, you know, health and safety, energy sector attire, right? Workplace clothing. And I'd never heard of the company, which is my fault, not his, but I'd never heard of them. I'm not in that sector, so maybe wouldn't have occurred to me. But this guy spoke about every time there's a trade mission anywhere in the world through the TT Chamber or the TTMA, he goes. He saves up his money, he goes to his bank, he tries to get the money, and he goes. He doesn't know where he's going. It could be Uganda, it could be Panama, it could be Argentina. He's going. And as a result of that, this sort of open-mindedness to what the world has to offer, he now has contracts and supplies. I mean, it blows my mind that there is a Trinidad firm that sells T-shirts and, oh God, not dungarees. I can't even think of the name of the outfit, the coverall thing that they wear offshore, and scrubs and healthwear, health professional clothing to Panama. He's in the South Latin America. He's in Africa. And that's because he was committed to this whole open-minded approach, learning about different markets, learning about different customers, building relationships through the networking, which I mentioned. And he now has got this global company right here in Trinidad and Tobago. It just is astonishing to me. His attitude was just brilliant. And that's the kind of approach you need to take, particularly at the beginning of your journey, is that, you know, my philosophy has always been, I say yes, and then I figure out how to do it. But I think it's important to have that open-mindedness to what the world offers. Then number 6 is to serve your vocation. And this really speaks back to the third network that I mentioned earlier. So it's important for you to give back to your profession. Maybe you're an engineer, maybe you're a farmer, maybe you're I don't know, a taxi driver. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. Maybe you have got a fleet of taxis and that's going to be your business. You need to get involved in supporting and building your profession. So if there is an association, join it. If there isn't an association, start it. I recently, just before COVID, started with the rest of the professionals in the recruitment space. We started the Trinidad and Tobago Organization of Recruitment Service Providers, something that had been talked about for 20 years, but nobody had ever done it. So finally it was like, okay, all right, I'll be the president. Let's get it moving. And so now we have a small association, but it's starting to grow and gain traction. You mustn't just join, you must get involved. So there's all sorts of committees. Maybe there's a conference coming up, or there's a finance committee, or there's always committees in associations. Get involved. And then join the board. You know, don't sit at the back of the room and wonder why nobody sees you. You have to, sometimes a little bit pushy, it may be a little bit out of your comfort zone, but you need to sort of put yourself in a place where people can see you, but also you're giving back to your vocation. And then become the president. Again, people cannot see you if you're sat at the back of the room. And finally, bring people with you. Encourage people in your discipline to get involved, to build your association, build your vocation, because it's so important for professionals, yes, to lobby, to work together. So maybe you're in an industry, you know, that is struggling at the moment. Maybe there's a need for investment in that sector. It wasn't particularly well covered in the budget. Maybe you're in the scrap metal business, right? We've seen, just as a small example of how a group of individuals in the same business and the same profession, when they bandy together and lobby together, can have a voice. You won't always get the results that you want, but it's important to support your vocation and to not necessarily just go it alone. Because without that kind of alliance with others in your profession experiencing the same things you experience, maybe you have a lot of challenges at the port, bringing products in through customs, and there are other people in your industry that are having the same challenge. You have more of a chance of resolving it if there are many voices. One voice can make a difference, but many voices typically is a bit more impactful and a bit more successful. So make a commitment to get involved in your vocation, in your discipline. I believe this very firmly. I'm the vice president of the HR Managers Association. I've been on the board maybe 3 times or twice before. And you know, for me, it was very, very important to be involved because I needed other HR professionals to see me and know who I was, because they're also my clients. They're people that I partner with. So maybe a customer comes to me and asks for some training that I can't do, but now I have a network of HR professionals that I can reach out to and ask, hey, could you help me with this? Or could we partner and do this together? So you don't lose opportunities, you gain opportunities. The next one, number 7, is soliciting feedback. And this sort of builds on the whole dream killer idea. But really, as you're going along, you must, on a regular basis, every 6 months, every year, stop and check yourself. That sort of M&E component in your work. And again, my own experience, I'm not very good at doing this. I am not particularly great at asking for feedback. I know that about myself. I have done it a few times in my business. I need to do it more often. I need to also feel that the people that, you know, I'm going to listen to the people who give me feedback, but you need other people to tell you, yes, what you're doing well, but also where you need to improve. So if you don't get feedback, you make expensive mistakes, and maybe even serious, depending on the kind of business that you're in. So you need to reach out on a regular basis to your customers. So one thing that we do here at Regency, and we started, it was before COVID, but we've been doing it for a few years, is we regularly, randomly sample customers, both clients and job seekers, to get their feedback on the service. So of course, again, the tools are available that make it very easy. We do it on a monthly basis. The 2 departments that are responsible report back and say, you know, we surveyed 50 people and 48 had a great experience. These 2 had a problem with A and B. So that now is an opportunity for us to improve or fix the problem. Of course, inviting your staff to give feedback is also critical. And even other people in your ecosystem, maybe your vendors, maybe your bank. There may be other parties that you engage with on a regular basis that it would be important for you to know how they feel about working with you. How are your processes efficient enough? So maybe even somebody that you purchase things from. Do we pay our bills quickly enough? Do we have good record keeping? Remember, financial records are essential. 7 years, you've got to keep everything. So, you know, look at the systems, look at the procedures, look at the policies of your organization. What we try and do at Regency is every year, roughly, we will stop and take stock. And what that means is that we go through all of our standard documents, our contracts, our terms and conditions, our policies, our employee handbook. Has anything changed? What do we need to change? So a great example, of course, employee handbook. There are a number of policies now that we need to change because of COVID, and we're now working hybrid. So those old rules don't apply anymore. So stopping and take stock, but you can't make those changes if you don't have feedback and information from outside. So that sort of 360 approach is really, really critical. And sometimes you have to actually encourage people to give you feedback, particularly clients. So maybe you do a quiz or something on social media, or you send out an email and the first company to submit their response gets a gift voucher, whatever it might be. So there are ways that you can incentivize, because sometimes it's tough to get survey results. I have found, for me personally, we may do a generic survey here. But what I do is every now and again, maybe once a week, I pick up the phone and I call a customer randomly. I look at the list of jobs that I get sent every Friday. These are the current positions we have. This is what we're working on. And I will just randomly pick a customer and I'll call. I'm just checking, you're working with Kevin on this. How's the service going? How efficient have we been? How quickly have we responded to your request? So that I and my staff know that I will randomly check in to make sure that we're on the right track. And of course we make mistakes, but it's important that we learn from them. So asking for feedback is essential. Number 8 bigger isn't necessarily better. I really believe this. I fervently believe this, that when it comes to visualizing your business, visualizing the company that you want, there is nothing wrong with having a small, successful micro business. You know, many people have asked me over the years, oh, why don't you have offices in all the Caribbean islands? Guyana's opening. Hey, let's have an office in Guyana. And we did look at it. To be fair, we did look at it. But I am not the sort of person that wants to be woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning because there's a crisis in the London office or the New York office or the Sydney office. I am very happy with my little company. At 5 o'clock, I can shut the doors. I can go on my way, do my voluntary work, spend time with my friends and family. I want that balance. I have built a business that gives me balance and not, 24 hours a day working. I never wanted that. So you have to know, what does this business, what is it going to do for you? What is it going to look like to make you happy? How do you define success? Some people, it's money and having a global presence. Others, it's just, you know what? I want to be the absolute best, I don't know, cupcake shop in Woodbrook. And that's going to be our thing, just Woodbrook. We're just going to stick with Woodbrook. Just this little piece of Trinidad, I want to be the best right here. And that's fine. It has to bring you joy. It has to make you want to get up in the morning and keep doing it. And I've been doing it for 26 years. Which is probably older than some of you even on this call. And I do love every day because every day is different. I love the people I work with. It's not always, happiness and jelly beans, but there are mostly really, really great days and there are some okay days. But the thing for me has always been balance. And I have built a business that enables me to do a myriad of things that I truly love and not just one. So think about the vision that you have. It's okay if it's small. A small business can be great too. So just remember that. The ninth one, number 9, is to not let things fester. I was going to put a picture of Fester from the Addams Family, but I thought that might be a bit cheesy. So what this means is that if you avoid a problem, it doesn't go anywhere, it gets bigger. So there is an expression, nipping things in the bud, right, which is what they use in gardening. So you nip a flower in the bud to stop it growing. You have to be brave and confront the problem. In Trinidad, we're not very good at confrontation. We're not very good at owning up, taking ownership, dealing with things. We tend to sort of roll the can down the road. But when it's a problem in your own business, maybe there's a conflict between 2 employees or between you and an employee or you and a supplier, whoever, you have to fix it now. Don't let it fester because problems grow very quickly, but also they can grow very expensive. And you don't want to be consumed with dealing with this. And there are some cases where you may have to say, you know what, I'm just going to cut my losses and run. But don't avoid the issue. Face it head on, have a conversation, send an email, arrange a meeting, whatever it is that needs to be done, and make a decision. One of the most important skills any entrepreneur can master is decision making. You can make a decision with the information you have at hand at that time. It may not be, when you look back 10 years later, the best decision ever, but you made a decision with the information you had. You have to be confident enough in yourself to say, I'm going to make a decision. We're not going to use that supplier anymore because of the problems we've had. Or I'm going to let this employee go because this conflict is not what I want to build in my organization. So you really have to address things before they get too big. And again, I've learned this the hard way, ended up with somebody, best part of 7 years working with them. And I want to say almost every day was stress. And it's my own fault. I never had the courage to confront her and to say, look, these are the problems I'm having. I just ignored it and hoped it would go away. Eventually it did, but it was 7 years of my life that I'll never get back. So, you have to have the courage to say enough, nip it in the bud. And then finally, and I think this is so important, is to seek out positivity. Being an entrepreneur, being a business owner can be quite lonely. Nobody's telling you you're doing a good job, except, you know, maybe some clients. Your staff aren't going to say that. You know, I have to often call my mum when something great has happened, and she's my number one cheerleader, right? But, you know, it's not like working in a business where other people are saying to you, good job. So it can be a bit lonely. And there are days where you just feel overwhelmed and you just don't want to carry on. And it's really important to have in your life positive people and to put yourself in positive experiences and places. So by that, I mean, you know what brings you joy, right? You know what makes you happy. Maybe it's the beach, maybe it's nature, maybe it's a cozy corner with a really good book, whatever it is. You have to make time in your life for positive experiences. Because trust me when I tell you that this can become your entire life. There was a point where I was doing 7 days a week. I mean, before the internet, when I started the business, Sundays would be my admin day. Saturday, I would be in the office, or I'd be networking, or every night of every week, I would be out and about. And it got to the point where, I mean, I was relatively young. It got to the point where I just was feeling not just physically exhausted, but mentally, I was kind of overwhelmed with what I was building, and it was going well, but I was sort of, I don't know, I wasn't happy in my heart, I guess. And so somebody very wise spoke to me and said, you know, you have to find time for yourself in all of this. Now, I don't have a family. I don't have kids. I do have a family. I don't have kids. But if you have kids, of course, you've got all of that to contend with, as well as running a business. So there's many things coming at you in life. Find people in your life that are positive. Create time to have positive experiences in your life, and to give you that motivation to keep going. Because, you know, in order for you to be successful, you must be persistent. 26 years I've been doing this. And, you know, every day you've got to get up and do it, every single day. And there are days you don't want to, trust me, there will always be days you don't want to, especially when it's raining. But you want to be able to get up with that joy and that passion for your firm and for your staff and your customers. And you can only do that if you've recharged yourself. So for me, the space that I find most positive and empowering is, well, I mean, friends, of course, spending time with friends, volunteering. I do a lot of volunteer work, and that really re-energizes me. I love animals. I spend a lot of time with animals, and reading and films I love. So I carve out time for myself, and I will tell people, if it's on a Sunday, you're not seeing me. Unless somebody's on fire, I am not coming out on a Sunday, or I'm spending time with people I love on a Sunday. I'm not doing work stuff, right? I'm not, because you have to have that sanity to keep going. So in conclusion, 10 things that you really need to know. And I'm sure you're thinking, oh yeah, well, I knew those. And maybe you did, but I have to tell you, I didn't know all of these things before I started. And now looking back, I wish I had. I really want to emphasize the whole idea about the customer experience that you've got to build into every facet of your business. The idea about networking and getting involved in your industry, in volunteering, in the business community, so that people start to know who you are and really recognize and build your brand. And then find time in your life for yourself, for positive experiences that bring you joy, that, you know, maybe it's just hugging your child for 10 minutes, sitting quietly in a corner, you know, singing, listening to Beyonce, whatever it is that brings you joy and energizes you. You need to find time for that. So folks, the last thought, and I know this gentleman is not universally loved, but I thought it was quite an interesting perspective on how to behave like the rich and famous, right? So this is obviously Jeff Bezos of Amazon. And this is what he recommends. Now, you know, we all, you know, he's not the most likable human being on the planet, but some of his advice is pretty good. So spend time with impressive people. And really that speaks to networking. Go out and meet and find opportunities to meet people who impress you, who you want to be like, who've built businesses that you admire, who you could take them for a cup of coffee and pick their brains about their journey and how did you do that, and so interesting. I want to follow in your footsteps. I want to be like you, right? Make sure that you are efficient with your time. Time management is a really essential skill for an entrepreneur. Worry about yourself. That's what I said. Find that joy, find time to love yourself and remain healthy mentally and spiritually and all of those things. Value education, the lifelong learning, and not be afraid of failure. You know, being an entrepreneur means taking risks. It means going out there and pushing yourself and sometimes being uncomfortable. You know, we started a business some years ago in the United States with a partner, a sort of an offshoot of Regency, and it failed horribly. It's a horrible, massive, huge, hairy failure. But I'm glad I did it because I've learned now what I will never do again. So no regrets, you know, but sometimes you have to take those risks because that's how you learn. That's how you get better. And that's also part of the feedback and having that circle of people around you who will tell you, stop, pay your VAT. So on that note, I'm going to stop sharing. We have about 10 minutes, so I'm happy to take any questions or any chats. Let's see what we got. Okay, micro business. Thank you, Gregory. Gregory's okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to share? Maybe your own experiences. I'm very happy to have a chat. Thank you. Jonathan says, raise your hands. It's a magical raise your hand option. No, everybody's stunned. Oh, Nicola Harvey. Yay. Hi, Nicola.
Hi, sorry, I came on very late, so I do apologize for coming on so late, but the last point about staying positive is so important. And surrounding yourself with positivity is extremely important. As an entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur, trying to enjoy it. Because I missed your first page because I came on so late, but if you could put that slide back up, I wanted to ask you one question, and one of the points I think I saw.
Okay, which slide did you want to see again?
Your turn.
Okay.
Yeah. Hire a dream killer. So if you could just
Yes.
from my own knowledge, if you could just share a little bit about that again, please, would be really appreciated.
All right, no problem. Well, let me quickly run back up to that slide so you can see what I had. Okay, so a dream killer, Nicola, is somebody who is in your, doesn't even necessarily have to be hired per se, but you have to have somebody in your life who, and in my case, it's somebody who actually works with me, who keeps you on the straight and narrow. So as an entrepreneur, typically you will have a sort of a vision and great ideas, and you come into work and you're excited, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I want to spend, $100 million and paint my building green. And then your dream killer will go, hang on a second. We haven't paid NIS yet. Or we're saving that money because remember, we need to, buy a new vehicle for our driver or whatever. So my area of weakness has always been finance. I know how to make money and I know how to spend money. I'm not terribly good at saving it and sort of budgeting. So I have somebody in my business who does that for me. And it can be a very frustrating relationship because a lot of the time I'll come in, I'm so excited and I saw this thing online and I find we should do it today. And then she'll go, yeah, no, we can't do that because we've got to pay salaries. So, I call her a dream killer. I mean, it really should be in inverted commas, but it's important to have somebody who keeps you on the straight and narrow, particularly where compliance is concerned, because many small businesses lose their way quickly with things like compliance, and it can end up being so expensive. Gail, I see you've got your hand up. Hi, Gail. Jonathan, can you unmute Gail?
Great. Thank you, Lara. Good afternoon.
Hello.
For me, each time I hear you present, Lara, I learn something different each time. So well, thank you, And today, what struck me today was the idea of not letting things fester in terms of confronting the problems. So that is one of the things that I think I'm not good at in terms of just confronting issues and, I don't want to rock the boat kind of thing sometimes. So I really appreciate your point about just dealing with it and starting afresh,
Yeah,
So,
I hear you, Gail. And I'm like you. I thank you for that comment. I am equally terrible. I have been. I'm getting better. I'm teaching myself to be a bit more confrontational. I mean, you know, people are surprised sometimes because I'm quite loud and I'm quite bossy, but that doesn't mean I enjoy, nobody enjoys confrontation, but you know, sometimes it's easier just to leave it in a corner and hope it goes away, but it very rarely does. So yeah, I'm glad that was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, lovely to have you. Okay, so Cashiel Farmer, my question deals with point 3. Have you ever been in a situation where a customer slanders your name or that of your business due to a miscommunication or an error on their part? How would you deal with the situation if you haven't, or if you had? Okay, let me stop sharing. Excuse me, that's a really good question. So I haven't ever had that experience here at Regency, but I did have it when I worked in London, and I was part of an organization, and we had a customer. It was a huge company that used multiple agencies at the time for their recruitment, and they actually issued a newspaper statement falsely accusing the agency I worked with of something which actually it was a competitor of ours had actually done. It wasn't us at all. Now, again, this is before the internet, so these things were a little slower moving then. But of course, it meant that our brand was, you know, in the papers, and we got a lot of calls. And now, luckily, it was a clear error. They had to issue a retraction and an apology. And in fact, they became an even bigger client. They felt so guilty. They gave us lots of money. But in today's era, I would suggest the very first thing you do is you have to have a face-to-face conversation with that client, whether it's a senior leader, a business owner. You know, you've got to get to the heart of why this has happened. What is their understanding of what your company did? What is their understanding or their perception of where you went wrong? What were they expecting that you didn't deliver? So before you jump on it and, you know, go to lawyers and issue a pre-action protocol letter, which every 2 minutes in Trinidad one is flying back and forth, try and resolve the conflict amicably, because at the end of the day, this is a customer who is going to be talking about you to other people. So the way you resolve a conflict is very often as important, if not more important, than the conflict itself. So you need to find a way, sit down, get in the room, and I don't suggest doing it virtually, but get in a room with the customer and talk to them and really try and understand what happened. It may be that they are totally wrong, but they recognize that, so they'll apologize, as I say, issue a retraction. It may be that in their minds, they're totally right, and you may lose the business, and you lose the business. Some business is not worth holding on to. It may be that you can reach a solution where they were expecting X, you didn't have X, but Y would be just as good. So we're going to give you Y at half price for the next month or whatever. You need to focus on finding a solution, but I definitely recommend dialogue. Communication is the only way to resolve that. And as I said in the example in the UK, it was actually one of our big ferry companies, and they went on to be our biggest client for years when I worked there, because, I mean, they made the mistake, but we went to them, we didn't issue a letter. We went and we chatted with them, and we said, you know, why are you saying these things? It was not, are you sure it was us? Turned out it wasn't. So communication. Yes, I'm seeing Gregory with his hand up.
Hi, good afternoon, Laura. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Point number 10 on your presentation, seek out positivity. You're my positivity today. And I sought you out, and you know what? It is actually really great. And like you said on that slide also, entrepreneurship is a very lonely. I think that's 10,000 folds, even more than you can write it on that slide. It's so true. But my question is, I saw TikTok today with someone making a comment about entrepreneurship, and they said that when it comes to being an entrepreneur, persons who have a greater personality and are likable are more likely to be successful than those who have a lot of knowledge and who are smarter at what they do. How do you feel about that, or what is your opinion or experience about that comment?
So thank you for that, Gregory, and thank you. I'm happy to be your positivity for the day. I would agree with it to a certain extent, because when you become an entrepreneur, as I said at the very beginning, my very first slide, you don't know everything. So knowledge is really a kind of an evolving thing, right? So you learn as you go along, and you meet people and you have new experiences and so on. But your personality, for me anyway, as an entrepreneur, I think having a sort of a confidence, it's not a con man, and I'm not suggesting anybody is a con man, but the word con man comes, of course, from confidence man, right? So having that confidence to let people trust you, invest in you, give you their business, buy your products. Part of that is that sort of performance that you put on as an entrepreneur. We're number one, we're fantastic, best in the world, you know, make you look slim, make you lose weight, make your hair grow back, all of these things that, you know, encourage us to buy. And then, of course, you know, I'm still fat and bald, but, you know, now I'm $1,000 poorer. So I do think there's a certain element of, you've got to be a salesman. You've got to be able to sell your business. And of course, sales is a performance. And yeah, fake it till you make it. As part of it, Felix. I mean, look at preachers who get people to part with their, you know, their very last cent, you know, in exchange for salvation. That's a performance. It's all showmanship. But I think deeper than that, for me anyway, that's the sort of opening salvo, right? I'm marvelous. Our business is marvelous. You need to come and invest with us. But deeper than that, you have to care about people. You have to care about relationships with your customers. So for many years, in fact, since the very beginning, I have had a personal relationship. I don't mean that in the intimate sense, but in the business sense, with many of my customers, to the point where they are still customers 25, 26 years later. I send birthday cards. I send thank you cards. I send them a WhatsApp at Christmas. I remember one of my clients some years ago loved German Shepherds. We're both animal lovers. And she was particularly involved in breeding and had amazing German Shepherds and so on. And if I ever came across anything, even if I traveled, you know, I don't know, a coaster with a picture of a German Shepherd on it, or a postcard, I'd buy it and bring it back for her. Right. And she's a customer. I didn't have to do that. She's not related to me. But that really, those sorts of thoughtfulness, going that little extra, doing that little extra for your customer, that I think is so important. And that's personality. That's not knowledge. That's caring about people. So it's perhaps the showman to start, and then you back it up with caring about people, communicating with people, having that empathy and that warmth, and that ability to build relationships. That knowledge is just a bonus. I mean, you have to know what you're doing. You can't be a showman and just be flam and just be fake. There has to be knowledge. But I think the relationship building is so critical. Thank you for the question. There's a question from Jerusha. Navigating the economy is different as innovation risk-taking is the order of the day. We have to trust that the dream killer has some appetite for risk or knows what it takes to ride the waves. What's been your experience recently on risk-taking and dream killers? So it's a great point, Jerusha. And again, I probably should have explained a bit. My dream killer hasn't killed all my dreams, right? There are some dreams that I am being allowed to pursue. It's really more about prioritizing. It's really more about saying, okay, you know, our budget is $1 million. I can't spend 900,000 of that on buying myself a new vehicle, right? Clearly, I have to pay salaries. I have to pay rent. It's about that realism versus the vision. It's that sort of eternal struggle, right? Operations versus strategy. But at the end of the day, if I can convince her that what my vision could actually bring us more money and help the brand become more profitable, and then she will support me, and she has supported me. It's my job to, you know, work with her to sort of bring the numbers down, so that sort of break the numbers out, sorry, so that she sees how if I spend $10, I can make 100. You know, her instinct is to not spend the 10 in the first place, but I can show her. And we make mistakes, but we made them together. And as I say, she's worked with me now 24 years, coming up for 25 years. So clearly we're doing something right. It does get frustrating. We do often. I mean, we've had some real humdinger fights, you know, both in tears, you know, and at the end of the day, Jerusha, this is my company that I own 100%. If anybody's going to go to prison, it's going to be me, if anything goes wrong. And she knows that. So at the end of the day, she can advise me, she can guide me, she can make recommendations, but the decision is always mine. So, okay, let's see what else we've got. Hi, Erica. Okay, good. Are there any, oh, I'm looking at the time now. I think we probably have to wrap up unless anybody's got any last comments. I will email the slides to Chedron so they can send it out to all of you. And I want to say thanks for being here, and I want to say good luck on your entrepreneurial journey. Feel free to reach out to me if there's anything I can do. Of course, Chedron and the YBTT team are here to help as well. And, you know, do explore some of the other activities that are available during GW this week, because there's a lot going on. And I think it's going to be a really fantastic couple of days. So thank you all for being here. Stay safe, have a beautiful day, and remember to stay positive. Thank you so much.